All right, Chris Sorenson, Casey Cunningham, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Casey?
I'm wonderful. I know that backdrop is not a fake backdrop. That looks really nice. So I'm just looking at it going, I want to be where you are.
It's our partly cloudy, sunny Southern California day.
Oh man, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. All right, so wow, we're coming up on 1 year since we went on lockdown.
Yes.
Tell me what has transpired in the past year for you.
Oh my goodness. that's a lot to unpack there.
Yep.
So there was the initial shock that everybody went through, that shock where there was a little bit of a pause, and then it was a full surge. It's almost like a tsunami came at us of business. And anybody who says that they were prepared, I would question their their validity, because the industry, as everybody will tell you, obviously over $4 trillion in business, the industry just wasn't capable of handling that much volume. And so what happens? Everybody starts stealing everybody else's employees. We were in a very strong financial position, which helped us. Being able to go direct to the window and not have to worry about the aggregators was a huge boon for us. I mean, we didn't change our guidelines. We still maintained, obviously, 620 and under FICO scores for the right borrowers, maintained our pricing. We didn't jack up our pricing like a lot of our competitors did. Good for them. I suppose, if Paul Rose, our CEO, and his partners are listening to this, they're like, yeah, maybe we should have. But I asked them not to, and they gave us our pricing. So we had a full credit box, great pricing. The problem that we suffered from, and it took us a while to dig out of the hole, was we just had such an influx of business, and everybody is poaching everybody else's employees. And then you have all these snot-nosed kids that come up and couldn't make it in the business, so they started recruiting everybody else's employees, right?
Right.
It was just a nightmare scenario. And so it wasn't until just a few months ago, about 120 days ago, in which our pods that we created, where we had pods across the entire United States of a underwriting team lead with underwriters underneath that particular team lead, that things really started to click. And so, we've been running 24 hours or less in underwriting for times. The idea is to close loans in 2 to 3 weeks, right?
Right.
And so we've been able to do that for the last, 120 days, and it's been wonderful. So
you see this pod model carrying on forward forever?
100%. Everybody, there was really no pushback. I mean, one of the things that I would count my blessings, and I think it speaks to kind of our culture of treating all of our people like customers, we didn't lose anybody as far as production goes. In fact, I use this as a bragging point. We track the top 50 companies in America that we compete with, of all sizes. And we're one of the top 25 lenders in America, but we look at all the 25 that are better than us, as well as the ones that are a little behind us. And we have the lowest out of all of them, for the NMLS records, the lowest branch turnover of any of them. And so we do a phenomenal job of retaining what we work so hard to obtain. And again, we do that just by being uber transparent, utilizing Zoom meetings just like we're doing right here regularly with our ownership on the calls, and continuing to dialogue with our people, letting them know, here's where we are, here's what we're doing to fix it. We hear what your challenges are, and we're addressing them as quickly as we can. And I think because of that, our people, by the numbers anyway, said, hey, we appreciate what you're doing for us.
How regularly do you actually speak to everyone when you said the owners are on the call?
Gosh, no, a lot more than that. I mean, we have on the first of the month, the first Wednesday of each month, we have a capital markets call with one of the owners, Gary Malice, and all the owners, of course, are on that. I co-host it with them, and all 3 channels, correspondent, wholesale, as well as the retail division that I run. We're all on that call. And then you have the next day, the first Thursday of each month, I hold a national call, all hands on deck, for all of retail. And that typically has 800 people plus on the call, including all owners. And then we have orientation the next week. And then we have branch managed university during that week.
Sure.
And then we have the following week, we have an all hands on deck managers call the 3rd Tuesday of each month. And then we have a national coaching call the next day. And then in between, I'm doing regional manager meetings every other week, because I'm high on accountability. So I learned as a real estate agent early on, back in the late 80s, early 90s,
Mm-hmm.
that you can't communicate enough.
Couldn't agree
Nobody
more.
ever complains about someone telling them too much information.
Sure.
But if you ask a room full of any professional and say, what's your biggest complaint about the mortgage industry? Lack of communication. And so we do just the opposite. We over communicate.
I could not agree more. I think that that's been something that became really big when the pandemic started, right? Everybody started communicating and it's starting to waver. And I'm telling everybody, stay engaged. You know, we meet every Monday on our team for an hour where we're talking about big wins from last week, priorities for this week. So we're constantly celebrating and staying focused on that. So let me ask you, you said pods. Can you give me a description of what the pods look like?
Sure. So you have, obviously, when you're talking about fulfillment centers, you have the hierarchy or org chart, if you will, is going to be your fulfillment manager. Then you have your underwriting manager. You have obviously the person who is in charge of all of ops underneath. That's basically the fulfillment manager. And then you have the two people, underwriting and all of ops.
Right.
And then underneath that, you have a team lead who is a lead underwriter, somebody who is adept at all aspects of underwriting.
Sure.
And then what we do is we say, all right, let's build a team of underwriters underneath this individual of various expertise. Some are going to have their VA, some are going to have FJ, some are going to have both, some are going to be conventionals, and they're going to have a couple of juniors for sign off on conditions. And that pod, if you will, takes care of a group under a regional manager on the production side and their branch managers and loan officers. So we marry them up. The idea being, Casey, of course, is that this is a relationship business. And you want to be able to allow those loan officers to get to know those underwriters so they can anticipate each other's needs. And by doing so, you avoid a lot of the back and forth. You know, our rule is, and my rule is, if you go back and forth 3 times, maybe 4, there better not be a 5th email. Pick up the damn phone and talk to the loan officer, or loan officer, pick up the phone and call the underwriter, because you're obviously miscommunicating. And so we're big on communication. We're big on allowing the loan officers to talk to the underwriters because, man, realtors and borrowers don't want to hear that there was miscommunication or they didn't understand the email. It doesn't make any difference when somebody's packing up and Mom, Pa, Kettle in Paducah, Kentucky want to move to their retirement home. It doesn't matter. So we have to be better. We got to be above the fray.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because when you say the word pod, I'm glad you brought some clarity to it. There's got to be an assurance from the loan officer's perspective. They know the underwriters, because once you get to know them, you know how they're going to think. The challenge is when you don't know which underwriter in a large organization is going to get the file, you really don't know how they're going to interpret it. And so I can imagine that had to make a difference.
Made a huge difference. And we also have a training team internally. And so that helps all loan officers and all processors. And what this whole team is about is we want instant gratification. You know, if you're going along and you have a question and a real estate agent or builder is waiting for an answer, or a borrower is waiting for an answer. Yes, we show you exactly where to go into the resource center, go to look it up in the guidelines. And of course, anybody can do a Control F keyword search to look something up. But maybe you got a Maven fail. Maybe you've got some other challenge, and maybe you need the deal desk, or you need what we call pals, that partner where you can reach out to them and they will tell you exactly the answer or where to find the answer, and wait until you actually have your need satiated. It's actually, we make sure it's taken care of. They follow the problem to the end. Well, that helps our processors to be able to submit higher quality files as well, because the people that are leading that team are the very best in our industry, in our opinion.
Sure.
That run that team to help our processors and underwriters marry up those files and solve problems quickly.
So what's the biggest priority you're working on right now?
The biggest priority I have, obviously, is always making sure that retaining what we've worked so hard to obtain. So that's the reason why retention is so high. So in order of priority, they're 1 and 2 very, very closely. It's retain what we worked so hard to obtain by treating the people that we have like a customer. Our customer is the branch manager and loan officer. Without them, I don't have a reason to exist. And so, of course, the borrower is somebody that we want to make happy, but we believe our perspective is keep the branch manager and also happy, the realtor's going to be happy. Keep all 3 of them happy, and of course, the borrower is going to be happy. But in addition to that, and making sure that all things are running on all 8 cylinders, then right behind that is, of course, is sharing our story and recruiting. And that's always obviously a struggle. And look, let me just cry on your shoulder. One of the greatest challenges I think that the industry has is there are companies out there that, right or wrong, will throw money at producers and say, hey, here's 25,000, here's 50,000, here's $200,000. And people will take the money and it's like they'll want that instant gratification. I always joke that when people got, when they decided to get their license to be a loan officer, they also got their medication for ADD, right? What they end up doing is they say, hey, look, I'd rather have $100,000 now. And even if I'm going to offer them a better deal, if they better themselves, sometimes we struggle with recruiting because while we'll help a little bit, I'm not a big fan of writing big checks. I'd rather find that person who's willing to better themselves, who's looking for a better experience because they want to build a legacy as opposed to looking for that short-term gain. But listen, we've grown exponentially and we will continue to grow, but we're going to do it the right way and wait till we find partners as opposed to people who are narcissists.
Man, you know what? What an amazing company. We appreciate your partnership, by the way. You guys have been great to us, and we certainly appreciate how you're growing and what you're offering your employees, if you will. I would call them your customers, right?
Our customers.
So, but what a stellar story, and I love how you're taking care of them. And so I just want to say thanks for the little bit of time we've had today, and I think we need to ride motorcycles again sometime soon, right?
Absolutely.
Where's been your last trip?
Last trip that I took was for any length of time was, was Sturgis. We rode back to Sturgis and had a phenomenal time with two of our 4 boys and their girlfriends. And we all went as a caravan, rode driveway to driveway, 3,600 miles in 10 days.
Oh my, that's a serious rider right there.
It was a great ride, and we had
a great time.
Do you
walk when you're done? I mean, are you sore?
Yes, we have, in fairness, we do ride what's called the Ultra. The people that are in the Harley Davidsons will know it's the big bike that has the fairing and all the bells and whistles. So that's it sounds worse than it is, but it's a great
recliner. You're driving a recliner with the motor.
To a degree, yes, that's true.
Well, it's great having time with you, Chris. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself.
All right. See you then.